Hello, hello. What's up, everyone? My name is Candace Smith, and this is Duval Connect Magazine Community Talk. We're here every Wednesday at 7 p.m. just discussing community events and what's going on in the city. I'm going to give a few minutes before I get started just to see if anyone's going to come in. You can always catch these lives on YouTube, the recordings on our Duval Connect Magazine YouTube page. Search Duval Connect Magazine in your YouTube search bar and you'll find us. So let's see, what do you all think of the election results? Let me see here. Let me turn my volume down so I can see what's going on. What do you all think of the results of the election? And I'm going to share this. Please share the link out if you don't mind. Yep. So I just want to make sure I see us going live and I don't. Let me check here. 'Cause I don't see nothing going on. Uh, oh, okay. All right. Looks like we're there. All right. Okay. All right. So that's what's up. Okay, you hear me and I sound good. Thank you, Kenny. Thank you for checking that for me. I appreciate it. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started for this evening. It was a big election that just took place on yesterday for Florida. A lot of the counties, well, all of them had their elections. And so we had the results as of yesterday. A lot of people been talking about it. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about all tonight for tonight's show. I just want to focus on the election results because they do play a major role in the things that go down in our community. You know, the people that we elected to be on the school board, they're going to be creating policies. You know, they're going to be the ones that if parents have issues, if teachers have issues, that they'll be going to, and so you always want to make sure that that person is, you know, somebody that aligns with uh, at least some of the beliefs that you have regarding education. So we did get to interview a few of the candidates. So we're going to talk about those candidates, revisit them. It's been some interesting turn of events when it comes to the school board race. So yeah, we're gonna get into that as well. We're gonna get into the major things that's happening in Florida as far as the elections, the governor's race, the U.S. Senate race. So yeah, we got a few things to discuss. So tonight, DCM Community Talk will be taking a deep dive into the 2026 Florida primary election with a special focus on Duval County and the races that will shape November. So we're going to be breaking down the biggest results, including Angie Nixon's stunning Democratic Senate primary victory over Alex Vindman, her upcoming November matchup against Republican U.S. Senate Ashley Moody, and the Republican gubernatorial and the Republican gubernatorial. Oh my God, I don't know why I can't say that word, but the Republican candidate for governor Byron Donalds, who's gonna face Democrat David Jolly in November. So we're going to also take a look at the Duval County School Board races that are still going on. There's some runoff races. We're going to learn a little bit more about that. I'm going to be talking about what a runoff is and why these races weren't decided in August and what voters need to know before November. So yeah, I'm excited about that. Um, we're also talking about Angie Nixon's historic primary upset. That's what they're calling it. They're calling it an upset because they're upset. And what is it going to take for her to win statewide in November? I also want to dig into why she is being called a democratic socialist. So we're going to get into a little bit about that tonight, about what the term actually means. Um, I'm going to play a little clip of some of the news reports that's come out since the elections. And so Ashley Moody has some sort of scandal going on. And I want to get into a little bit of that tonight. I'll probably put out a longer video and article soon. But I do want to touch a little bit on that because now that we see who's going to be going head to head, we can really dig into them and learn more about them. So, yeah. Basically, when it comes to Ashley Moody, she's running up against Angie Nixon, but she has a political connection to Ron DeSantis. The Hope, Florida controversy, these allegations surrounding this movement of $10 million connected to Medicaid. So we got to figure out what's the facts. We're going to figure out what the allegations are. Um, we're going to, like I said, talk about the governor's race between Byron Donalds and David Jolly, um, the school board runoffs, and what you should be looking for, come November. So yeah, we got a lot to talk about tonight. It's been a lot. So what just happened? Okay. What just happened with these election results? And let's just start from the beginning. A lot of people are shocked and surprised that Angie Nixon was able to pull off this Democratic nomination for U.S. Senate, defeating Alex Vindman. You may say, well, why? Why is everybody so surprised? Well, they're mainly pointing out the fact of the money. The Republican Party, they had a lot of money. Alex Vindman had, a lot of big donations come in. And that was something that's been discussed the entire candidacy, the entire time that they've been running. They've been discussing how much money has been coming in to each party because they basically feel like, okay, well, the person that has the most money, they're going to have the most reach, the highest reach. They're going to be able to reach people. And so, therefore, in their mind, it makes sense that that person would take away the votes. But people are shocked that you can't just have money and you can't just have all of these, dinners with your select party, and think that you're going to run off with the votes. Angie has shown that Florida has changed. And people really do want to know more about their candidates. They want you out among the people. They want you shaking hands. They want you knocking on their door. You're going to have to earn this vote. Everybody's going to have to earn their votes from here on out. You're not just going to be able to get a vote just because you have money. And I think that's the biggest thing that we could take away, from the election, especially when it comes to Angie Nixon's win. Um, against Alex Vindman, is that money is not going to be the end all be all. So Angie Nixon won the Democratic nomination for U.S. Senate, defeating Alex Vindman. Ashley Moody won the Republican Senate nomination. So now Nixon and Moody will now face each other in November. Byron Donalds won the Republicans' nomination for governor. David Jolly won the Democratic nomination for governor. So the Florida Republicans still kind of have, a lot of power here in Florida, but they're nervous. They are definitely nervous because there's a lot of seats that they banked on that they thought they would have. You all can never forget that Florida is our president's home. He expects to have Florida down pat in the bag. He expects to have all of these seats and to not get them in a red state, you know, where Republicans used to dominate. But something that I feel like has come back to bite Governor Ron DeSantis in the backside is during COVID, he left Florida open. He left Florida open for a lot of people from up north, from New York, people that were more liberal have now moved into Florida and they've made Florida their home. And they've been here for a while. And they did not leave their policies behind. They did not leave their beliefs behind. So, yeah, I don't think he banked on that. And so, therefore, Florida is not as red as they think that it is, which is why they had to do a lot of redistricting earlier this year. We discussed that on this channel. You can find the video where we discussed how they came and changed the districts to put them in a more favorable position. That was strategic. And we discussed that. And Angie Nixon came out and spoke about it. She came out and said they were gerrymandering. So give me 1 second, you all. Y'all know I gotta send out these links to people. So I want to go ahead and do that. So give me 1 second. And we're gonna be moving on because we got a lot to discuss. Let's see here. So let's see where we're at. All right, so we discussed the Florida election results. That's Florida. So the Senate race is particularly significant because this is a special election to complete Marco Rubio's remaining term. So Ashley Moody was appointed this position. She was not voted in. And so now that they're at the end of this term, they're having this race. And so Moody was appointed by Governor Ron DeSantis after Rubio left the Senate to become Secretary of State. So, yeah, that's what we got going on. Those are the Florida election results. So, let me get here. Wanted to I don't see my slide. I'm upset. May have to go back in here and re-download it. I don't want to do that, but I may have to. Okay, give me 1 second because for whatever reason, one of my slides didn't download. Yeah, this one didn't. Man, I hope this don't take long. Okay, that wasn't so bad. Yeah, because the next thing that I want to get into is the turnout for Duval County voting. Does anybody know what was the official turnout for last night for the election for Jacksonville? That is the next thing that I want to discuss. So give me 1 second. I'm going to pull this up. I'm upset that all my slides didn't come through. So were you surprised by Duval County's voter turnout? Were you surprised by that? Let's see here. I'm going to put a poll in here. This will be my first time working with this. Oh, I thought I remembered seeing it. Here we go. Yeah. Were you surprised by county voter turnout? This is my first time doing this, y'all, so bear with me. Yes, I thought more people would come. No, primaries usually have low turnout. Okay, so let's see how this works. I'm not sure where it's going to show up at, but I just submitted a poll. So we'll see how that goes. And now I'm going to check and see if my slide has come through, which I think it has. So that's good. I do have a couple of videos I want to play. So I want to do that as well. Get some responses. All right. So Duval turnout was only about 23.1% for this August primary. And I want to encourage people to begin voting during the primaries because this is the time when we get people on the ballot to vote for in November. So, for instance, in order for Angie Nixon to be on the ballot, she had to get many votes for this election for her to be on the ballot in November to become U.S. Senate for Florida. So that's another reason why I'm like, okay, we have to begin voting during this time. We can't wait. Give me 1 second. Let me plug to my charger because, of course, it's dying. So, yeah. And as you can see on the screen, there are 246,535 Democratic voters, in Jacksonville, and Republican voters is 238,606. voters. So yeah, that's, at least 500,000 voters sitting in Jacksonville, Florida, and only 23.1% voted. So during this election, and I know there were plenty of opportunities for others to vote. There was a city council election that went down, and of course, the school board election, which we're about to get into right now. So let me get into this really quick because there's been some um, interesting, interesting turn of events when it comes to the school board race, only because there is some runoffs, and we're going to get into that too. So, all three 2026 Duval School Board contests will go to a November runoff because nobody received more than 50% of the vote. School board elections are legally nonpartisan, meaning the candidates' party affiliations don't appear on the ballot as party nominees, even though candidates can have a partisan support and political affiliations. So basically, when you're running for the school board, you really drop your party. You drop the Democrat, you drop the Republican, when you're running for school board. Now, this is something that I I already knew this, but I did forget. And there was a few people that ran into this issue yesterday where their ballots looked different and they didn't have all of the candidates on their ballot. But if you did not change your party affiliation to either Democrat or Republican, you were not even able to vote for the U.S. Senate race. In order to vote for the U.S. Senate race, you would have had to change your party affiliation from non-party to either Democrat or Republican. So you always have to be aware of that and check that out so you'll know, okay, well, hey, I got to change my party if I want to be able to vote in this particular election. So the school board elections are legally nonpartisan. So really, the candidate is not supposed to attach themselves to a party, but that doesn't always work out that way. So, yeah. And basically, there'll be a runoff. None of the candidates was able to get at least 50% of the votes. I didn't realize that when I was first looking at the results. Let's see here, because I did have a video I wanted to share. I just hope it, I don't think it downloaded though. Let's see if I can find that real quick. I think this is it. I'm gonna give that a second to download, and we'll go further into this race, this runoff race. Hmm. Hmm. I don't understand why all of my slides did not download. This is so strange. Oh, here it is. Okay, I think I found it. I just don't want to have to go through this for all of them. I don't want to have to keep doing that. think this is my next slide here. Oh, so let me talk about these two, Rhodesia Butler and James Jacob. These two will be heading off for school board. See here if I got a little bit more information on them, which I do. So Rhodesia Butler versus James Jacobs. Butler is a longtime education and community professional and former school administrator. Jacobs is a charter school dean of students. Their runoff will determine who replaces term limited board member Daryl Willie. So Daryl Willie must have termed out. He's termed out. So now it's up to Butler and Jacobs. They both have education experience and kind of running off of that, but they'll be going head to head. Let me see if this video has downloaded. Yay. So I don't know why it's not playing. It does not want to play. Wow. That's strange. It pops up for a second. Okay, there we go. There it is. I don't know if my poll showed up or not. Maybe it didn't. I got to figure that out. So these are the candidates. Everything's popping up. Let me see if it went through. I don't think so. I want to get down to the school board. Here we go. School board. Oh, let's see. Yeah, there were more than two in some of the categories. I'm gonna let that play, and I'm just gonna try to look at it from my phone because I have it bigger there. Where is it? Man. Okay, here we go. So, yeah, because I want to get down to the school board. Okay, so it looks like Rhodesia Butler had 34% of the votes. James Coach Jacobs had 39%. So if they're not over 50%, then they go to a runoff. Those were the two highest. There was also a Alfreda Denson Butler in the category. They had a 25%. So James was actually in the lead with 8,000 votes. And then Rhodesia was in second with 7,000 votes. So they'll be heading off together, these two, Rhodesia Butler and James Jacob. And so they'll be looking to replace Daryl Willie. So yeah, hopefully over the next couple of months we can get these candidates in here to speak with us and share their policies, and we can learn a little bit more about them. So my name is Candace Smith. This is Duval Connect Magazine, and we're discussing the election that just took place on yesterday, the primary election results. So we're discussing that. Thank you for tuning in. Please like the video and share. Share it out whenever you're able to check it out. So far, we discussed the election results, the Florida election results. We'll go back into a little bit more detail about that later. We discussed voter turnout in Jacksonville was at 23.1%. How y'all feeling about that? And then now we're discussing the Duval County School Board elections, which we don't know who's going to be on the school board. The 3 seats that were up, nobody won the seats officially. Nobody has won those seats officially because there was a runoff. Okay, so we're learning a little bit more about that today. So, what is a runoff? A runoff is essentially a second election between the top candidates when nobody receives the required majority in the first election. For these Duval school board races, a candidate needed more than 50% to win outright. So here's an example. In a lot of the categories, there were at least 3 candidates. So candidate A may have gotten 45%, candidate B 35%, candidate C 20%. Candidate A came in first, but candidate A did not win because 45% is not a majority. So candidate A and candidate B will move forward and get another opportunity for the voters to choose between them in the November election. So here are 2 more candidates that will head off um, in the election, and that's Donovan Bradley and Donna Westridge. So we did get an opportunity to speak with Donna. We have an interview. She came on to our live community talk. So you can learn more about her and her policies here on our YouTube channel. So yeah, we did get to speak with Donna. We have not spoken with Donovan Bradley as of yet. Hopefully, we'll have an opportunity to do that. And so him or Donna will need 50% of the votes. And so a lot of times when these runoff races happen, they happen a lot of times when there is a nonpartisan race, because a lot of times a particular party, the Democrat or Republican Party, they're not going to want to have 2 candidates going up for the same seat. They're not going to want 2 Democrats or 2 Republicans because they understand that it's going to split the votes and no one is going to get a majority vote. So a lot of times they'll try to pick, one particular person that they'll back and that they'll try to put all of their energy towards. But when it comes to the school board races, because these are nonpartisan races, meaning there's no party affiliated with them, either Republican or Democrat, you won't hear them talking about it. So therefore, they won't be really backed by a party like that. I mean, of course, you'll know how they feel sometimes based off of the color schemes that they use, or just the circles that they run in. You'll be able to say, oh, that person's a Republican, or this person is a Democrat. But when it comes to these seats, such as the school board seats, that really shouldn't have anything to do with our kids' education, regardless of Republican or Democrat. It's certain seats where that doesn't even matter. They're not really even going to take that into consideration that much. So, yeah. Now, Bradley received about 49%, while Rich received about 39%, with the third candidate eliminated from the race. Bradley has emphasized school safety, school choice, career readiness, and teacher retention. Westridge is a longtime educator with 2 decades of classroom experience and is campaigning from a public school educator perspective. And we did learn that about Donna. We learned that about her. That is one of the main things she wants to run on is uh having the backs of the teachers. So if you're somebody out there and you feel like, yeah, I want to support the teachers, then Donna is who you want to back. And Bradley cares about school safety, school choice, career readiness, and teacher retention. And hopefully we can learn more about him um, soon. Yeah. So let's see who else we got to discuss. 1 second here. Okay. So who wins? This is a game. We're going to play. Would candidate A, B, or C win if there was a race? Candidate A is at 48%, candidate B is at 31%, and candidate C is at 21%. So who would win this race? And now the candidates that we have, once again, this is the third group of candidates for school board that will be facing a runoff. And this is for District 6, Lindsay Denmark versus Clarence C.J. James. So Denmark is a realtor. James is a Duval County Public Schools police sergeant. Both have emphasized school safety and student discipline, although they approach the issues from different backgrounds. Denmark received about 34% and James about 21% in the primaries. So Clarence James was the first candidate to come on to our show. So we have an interview with him and we have some clips with him. So you can go check him out on our YouTube channel and learn more about him. Yes, he is a public schools police officer. So he did talk a lot about that um, during that time. And my dog has bust in here. I don't even know why. 1 second. Okay, I'm sorry about that. My dog likes to bust in. Then he's gonna want to jump all over me. So I have to get him together. So yeah, this is on the screen, Lindsay Denmark and Clarence CJ James. They're in a runoff for District 6, as well as Rhodesia Butler and James Jacob for District 4. Yep. And then we have Donovan Bradley and Donna Westridge for District 2. So, yeah, they'll be back on the ballots in November for you to vote for them for school board. The current Duval School Board has a strong conservative majority and two conservative members, April Carney and Charlotte Joyce are leaving their seats. The three runoffs could therefore change the board's political balance. So, should school board races be treated as local issues or political issues? Should school board races be treated as local issues or political issues? Or both, or neither? Can a race legally be nonpartisan but politically partisan in practice? What do you all think? So, we discussed what a runoff is, which is essentially a second election between the top candidates when nobody receives a 50% majority. Okay. So if your candidate lost in August, that doesn't necessarily mean the race is over for them. Now, we did get to interview, I believe his name was Terrence, but I did see that he did not get enough votes to be a part of the runoff election. So he's no longer in the running for school board for now. So for August, there would be multiple candidates, but by November, there will only be the top two candidates that'll be on your ballot for school board. So that election is November 3rd. Mark your calendars, and they'll come out with times that you can do the mail in ballot or that you can participate in early voting. So all of those dates and things they'll be putting that out. So yeah, that's the school board, you guys. That's that on that. I think we got a few more things to discuss this evening. I want to thank you for joining. My name is Candace Smith, and this is Duval Connect Magazine Community Talk. And so I do like to have um, these chats where we get to talk about community events and the things that's going on. I had some other stories to discuss, but I'm like, discussing these election results is going to be the most. So let me go ahead and just get into that. And that's where we'll stick with tonight. We'll stick with this. So I do want to get into the U.S. Senate race a little bit more. So a lot of people are calling this, oh, the upset. Oh, Angie Nixon has upset, you know, what I guess people planned. What they thought was going to happen has not happened. They thought that a lot of money put on the situation was going to matter. And I still see a lot of people talking crazy in the comment section, still saying they're going to vote for Ashley Moody and that Angie won't win, you know. So Angie Nixon defeated Alex Vindman. We've been discussing both candidates here. We've done a couple of videos on Angie and the policies because she comes out and speaks about them. She's always coming out and addressing whatever somebody comes to her and bring to her. So you will find a lot of the policies and issues across Florida, that housing issues, she's addressed it. And when I say addressed it, I mean created a plan of action on what she's going to do to make changes on that. The prison system, she's addressed that. And she has a plan of action for Florida. So, over the past 2 years, Angie has consistently responded to the community. And I've watched it. I've watched people reach out to her about their concerns, and she not run away from it. She addresses it. So Nixon won the Democratic Senate primary despite being dramatically outspent. Reports put Nixon's fundraising at under $1 million compared with more than 16 million for Vindman. So that's really what the upset is. People are shocked. They can't believe that she won, despite the other candidate having all of this money. So this produced the biggest political surprise in Florida last night, and actually it's made national news. So it's not just being talked about in Florida. I haven't gotten to watch the full interview, but I did see Angie Nixon interviewing with Don Lemon. So I'm going to go back and check that interview out later tonight or possibly tomorrow. So yeah, Nixon won the Democratic Senate primary despite being dramatically outspent. Reports put Nixon fundraising at under 1 million, compared with more than 16 million for Vindman. So people are wondering, how did she do this with less money? Well, here's some possible factors. First off, grassroots organizing. Angie is with the people. She's out. I mean, she's been all over Florida all year. She's been here to Pasco County, maybe more than once at different events, each time ready to talk. Just the time that she came here to Pasco County earlier this year was for the Black Heritage Festival. She wanted to talk to every single person. Before she even touched the mic, she did not stand at a booth under a tent like other candidates I saw doing. She walked around and literally did her best to try to talk to every person she came in contact with before she ever got up on the stage and spoke. So by the time she did get up on that stage to speak, there was a crowd gathered because she had already went out into the crowd and spoken to the majority of them. And I'm sorry, it doesn't matter how much money you have. You can't replace that. That cannot be replaced. So she has a strong progressive identity. She has big name recognition in Jacksonville, and that comes from, just her being consistent doing the work. She has a bookstore there in Jacksonville that fosters community and provides a lot of resources for the community within the bookstore. It's not just literature. They host a lot of community classes and, different things like that. It's become a hub. So she really didn't have to, go out and try to find this campaigning place and all of that stuff because she had a central location already and a place where people could come and discuss politics and policies. And I even saw her hosting mental health courses, fitness type things, yoga, health things. Yeah. So there's been a lot. So she appeals to Democratic voters who want more, who wanted a more ideological candidate. She has experience as a state representative and she's anti-establishment. And yeah, she often shows her dissatisfaction with traditional political leadership. And she's been able to get a lot of progressive national endorsement. People on a national level recognize her for her efforts and, you know, fighting for the people. She literally got arrested earlier this year for standing up for the people. So I know that a lot of, I guess, some people who really thought, well, we got the checkbook, we got the money, they're surprised. But I've been, on several calls for Angie, and I've been, you know, just following from the beginning. And yeah, she has the people. So some candidates are going to see that that money is not going to be enough. It's not this time around. That may have worked in the past, but more and more people are not just aware of the politics, they're involved in them. They're more knowledgeable of what's going on. So, yeah, I'm excited about that, excited for her. Yeah, she has a campaign that emphasizes issues such as healthcare, childcare, and affordability. And people are wondering, can she actually win? What is it going to take for her to win stateside? And there are a few challenges. You know, Florida is a Republican state. There are 1.5 million registered Republicans, more than Democrats in this state, according to Reuters. Some people feel like she's going to have to expand beyond Democrat. And you know what? When I looked, there's a significant amount of non-affiliate voters, nonpartisan voters out there. And I know some of them did change their party affiliation to be able to vote for her. So honestly, I think that's already kind of being done where, yeah, there were some people that were maybe Republican. There were some people that maybe wasn't even registered to vote or was non-party affiliated. But now, because of her policies, they've changed them. So now, this is another thing I want to get into. One of the last topics I want to talk about is I continue to see her being described as a democratic socialist. And I'm just like, what is this term about? Why does this term keep coming up? So I do want to get into that a little bit because I'm just like, what is this about? Why are they coming up with a new party or something? That's what I kind of feel like. Okay, I think this is the slide that I need. Praise God, it downloaded. Yeah. So why are they calling Angie Nixon a democratic socialist? Democratic socialism is a political philosophy that argues democratic government and society should play a much larger role in ensuring economic equality and providing essential services. Democratic socialists generally support things such as universal or expanded health care, stronger labor rights, higher wages, expanded public services, greater taxation of wealthy individuals, corporations, stronger social safety net programs, greater public or democratic control over parts of the economy. You know, I don't know what really bothers me about this. And I don't see her complaining. And I've seen other candidates, being called this as well. It just seems like the media is putting that. I don't see her labeling herself as this or other candidates. I have not really seen them label themselves as this. I've seen the media do it. And to me, it seems like a way to deter voters because one of the biggest things that I see people talking about negatively when it comes to Angie is, oh, she's a part of the people that just wants to give everything out for free. That's the main thing that I see. I saw it today, under this post on social media. This exact headline, when you scroll through the comments, because that's what I guess a socialist is meaning. Somebody that believes in the universal health care, and taxing the wealthy. And there are a lot of people that's against that. They don't believe in that. They believe in pulling yourself up by the bootstraps, even though they probably never did it themselves. But let them say it. That's what they believe. So, to me, in my opinion, this harms. This makes it a label, and this is not what it's all about. This is very limiting, in my opinion, to the broad political views that she has. So, I don't know about this. I may say a little bit more about it in the future, but it just rubs me the wrong way. So I do want to get into these videos before we go into the last segment. So I'm going to try to play that here real quick.
$10 million that was supposed to go towards the most medically needy kids here in our state. And she used it. She allowed Ron DeSantis to use it to defeat two citizen-led ballot initiatives that could have helped improve the quality of life for residents here in the state of Florida. Ashley Moody doesn't care about people, and I look forward to her calling me senator come November. Ashley Moody decided.
Let me play that one more time. Hold on.
$10 million that was supposed to go towards the most medically needy kids here in our state. And she used it. She allowed Ron DeSantis to use it to defeat two citizen-led ballot initiatives that could have helped improve the quality of life for residents here in the state of Florida. Ashley Moody doesn't care about people, and I look forward to her calling me senator come November. Ashley Moody decided.
That last part. Woo! Man, she meant that thing. She meant that. I look forward to her calling me senator. I love it. I just do. I love it. Hold on one second because I think I got another one.
for Florida does not deserve to lead our state into the future. David Jolly is the change that Florida cannot afford. When it comes to your wallet, Jolly opposed cutting taxes for working families and seniors. Jolly defended a $4 trillion tax hike that would raise taxes on every Floridian, taxing your tips, taxing your overtime, and taxing your Social Security on seniors who spent a lifetime earning. Jolly would rather you pay more than $3,000 in taxes every single year. On property insurance, his plan is government-run socialism that forces you to prop up state funds with your tax dollars. When COVID hit, David Jolly chose Fauci over Florida. He fled to Pennsylvania because he wanted endless lockdowns over common sense leadership by Ron DeSantis. And he later said that Fauci has unimpeachable judgment. Anyone who chose Fauci over...
Okay, so that's Donalds. That's who's representing the Republican Party for governor. I'm going to talk a little bit about that race next week. I'm going to get into Jolly and Donalds a little bit more. We're going to get more into Nixon and Moody, and we'll be getting more into the candidates. So tonight, for the last topic, I kind of want to go into Ashley Moody a little bit, because in the video I played, Angie was saying that there was a fund, and $10 million of that fund was shifted for political reasons. I'm still trying to understand the whole situation, so I kind of want to get into a little bit of that as the last topic for tonight. Yeah. So let's figure this out. This whole situation. So this is the November matchup. It's going to be Angie Nixon versus Ashley Moody. And like I said, Ashley Moody was appointed by Governor Ron DeSantis after Mark Rubio took another position. So then Governor Ron DeSantis appointed Ashley Moody. So she actually was not voted in. She was appointed. And now that the term limit is up, the seat is open. And of course, she's going for the seat, but she has competition. They probably thought that it was going to be Vindman as the competition, but now I know they're shaking in their boots, because the competition is Angie Nixon. And she's already got, her foot on her neck. I think I got both of those videos because I said, oh, wow, the gloves are coming off. We can literally expect for this to be a back and forth for the rest of the remaining time until November. Until November, we're going to see a lot of people being exposed because it's already happening. And things that, maybe at first wasn't spoken so loudly about, now it's going to ring the alarm. That's where we're going to be at. So let's talk about this. Now, Angie, we know, Democrat, progressive, Democratic socialist. That's how she's being described. Florida State Representative, Jacksonville-based political figure. Ashley Moody is a Republican U.S. Senator, former Florida Attorney General, and appointed to the Senate by Ron DeSantis. Moody won the Republican primary with approximately 79% of the votes. Nixon won the Democratic primary with roughly 56%. So November isn't simply Democrat versus Republican. It's also progressive Democrat versus Republican incumbent. That creates a very different political dynamic than the race Democrats were expecting when Alex Vindman was presumed nominee. So I think too, the Democrats are really shocked too, because you know they put their backing with money. They put their backing with money, and you know, enough of that. I think we do need to see an opportunity where money is not leading everything in our politics. So let's get into this Ashley Moody and Hope, Florida controversy. Because as you heard on the video, this is something that's been talked about for a minute now. And I mean, it's been out there, but it hasn't been pushed, you know, to me as much as it should be. So I want to get into this and figure out what's going on. So, what is Hope, Florida? Hope, Florida was launched under First Lady Casey DeSantis as a program intended to connect Floridians with assistance and community resources. So, where does the 10 million come from? A $67 million settlement involving Florida's Agency for Healthcare Administration and Medicaid contractor included 10 million that went to the Hope Florida Foundation. The controversy is what happened after that 10 million reached Hope Florida. Okay. According to the reporting, the foundation transferred the money to two nonprofit organizations, which subsequently made contributions to a political committee connected to former DeSantis chief of staff, James Uthmeyer. That's the part that triggered the scandal. Okay. So, you know how they say follow the money. Okay. So, there was a settlement that took place involving Florida's Agency for Healthcare Administration and Medicaid contractor. Okay. $10 million from that settlement went to Hope Florida Foundation. And then some type of way, that $10 million ended up going to a political committee. So I want to dig a little bit more into that, but it seems like, okay, there was this settlement with this Florida agency, and then money got switched around. There is some evidence that Moody's office, while she was Attorney General, approved the settlement structure that sent the 10 million to Hope, Florida. So this is where Moody comes in and her office was involved. While she was the Attorney General, they were the ones who created the structure for this settlement. PolitiFact reported that Moody's office approved the transfer, but the money's subsequent movement through Hope Florida and other nonprofits is a separate part of the controversy. There is some legitimate controversy surrounding this $10 million. There are legitimate questions about oversight, transparency, and the movement of money. We do have to look into this. They're trying to really keep it quiet, but I think there's something to it. I think there is something to say how you handle money, especially large sums like this. And if she's appointed or elected again, or she was appointed at first, Ashley Moody, but if she's elected, she's going to be, responsible for some sort of budget and determining where monies go. Can she be trusted? Or was she appointed to do exactly what she did? So that's the thing about it. We're going to keep talking about this. We're not done. So, does responsibility follow the person who physically moved the money, the person who approved the agreement, the organization that received it, or everyone involved? If an elected official approves a transaction and that money later ends up somewhere controversial, what level of responsibility should that official have? So, yeah, you guys. So, looking ahead to November, what would determine the Florida Senate race for you? Party loyalty, turnout, independent voters, candidate policies, money, national policies, or all of the above? What would Angie Nixon have to do between now and November to convince a voter who did not vote for her in the Democratic primary? And what does Ashley Moody have to do to convince voters who don't like the direction Florida has taken under Republican leadership? So the primary isn't the end of the election. There are still 3 Duval School Board races that are going to be runoffs. Yep, we discussed that today. A candidate can win the most votes and still not win the election. So that's what we saw happen with the school board races. Even though there were 3 candidates that had the most votes, they did not win. There is a runoff because nobody received over 50% of the votes. Angie Nixon's victory changed the Florida Senate's race. She went from competing against other Democrats to facing Republican incumbent Ashley Moody, and now has to build a statewide coalition in a state that currently has significant Republican registration advantage. November 3rd, 2026 is the next major election date, and Duval voters should check their individual sample ballot when it comes out, because the races on a ballot depend on the voter's district and registration. Okay. Yeah. So I think this went well tonight. I think it went well. Let's see what time it is. It's 8:15. Good time. Let's see here. I think it was. Yeah, and we'll be back. We're gonna keep having these discussions, and I'm gonna keep breaking some of this stuff down. Man, I'm looking for my other slide. I can't see. Oh, here we go. All right, there we go. So thank you for tuning in tonight. Um, Please share and let others know about the community talk. If you have an event going on in Jacksonville that you would like for me to share on Duval Connect magazine platforms, I can definitely do that. If you would like to have more information on subscriptions or advertisements, hit me up, duvalconnect2020 at gmail.com. Check out our blog. Look out for the latest in our news and events at duvalconnect.blogspot.com. And you can subscribe for $2 a month at patreon.com/QCP. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening. I'll be back next Wednesday, same time, 7 o'clock. I'll see you then. You all have a blessed evening. Peace.